Okay. Talk again?
Yeah.
You're still ridiculously louder than me.
Sorry. I'm loud. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Hey, listeners. David's loud. Anyways, I'm Ethan.
I'm David.
We are those nerds you know.
Woo!
We just got a new mic and we're playing around with it. And
yeah.
Yep.
Now we don't have to record on a toaster.
Yeah, in a bin.
In a bin.
Anyways, coming at you to talk about board games.
Yeah.
David and I both play a good bit of board games. Probably, honestly, I can easily say that I play more board games than I do video games.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah, for sure.
And I feel it's time we chat a little bit about that. What we're going to do is talk about what board games are, why we like them, and we're going to talk about our favorite games and which ones we might recommend to you guys, different things like that, and why. Yeah, something like that.
I haven't bought a new board game in a while, so I'm not quite up to speed with some of the newer stuff that the kids are playing. But I've got some. I've got quite a collection of games in my house.
David.
Yes.
What's a board game?
Oh Lord. It's a game that you play on a table with a bunch of friends sitting around that table, and it can incorporate enemies. You bring your
play with your
enemies
family
to play Jumanji or whatever it is. Yeah, but you guys, so you can play. Sometimes they have boards. Sometimes it doesn't really have a mat or doesn't have any layout. Sometimes it involves cards or figurines and stuff like that. But generally, it's always a game that you guys are working together or against each other to play. And they come in all shapes and sizes. It's really neat. And they also vary in time as well. Like sometimes a game can take multiple hours, and sometimes a game can take like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of people would be familiar with just basic board games that you grew up with as a kid.
Yeah.
Scrabble,
Candyland,
Monopoly.
Sorry.
Yeah, all those types of things.
Yep.
Those are real basic games.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have kind of a story. Like Monopoly, I guess, kind of has a story. Like you're trying to become like
Candyland has a story.
Mogul. Sure, it does.
I assume.
I've never played it.
That has characters in it. I don't know if they do anything.
Yeah.
Shoots and Ladders. That has a story.
Stuff.
I mean, supposedly.
Tell what the story of Shoots and Ladders.
Well, originally, when Shoots and Ladders was first created, it was originally like in ancient times, it was meant to the shoots were meant to represent the vices and sins of people, and the ladders are you overcoming those would be considered virtues. And so in Shoots and Ladders, it wasn't like actual ladders and chutes, it was like snakes and something to climb up. So I think ladders were still ladders, but basically they were pillars you were going up, and it was really just like whoever can complete the game was basically overcome their sins with virtues.
What in the world?
Yeah, no.
I've never played that game, and I've never heard that.
It's not a great game, or at least it's not well. It's not well designed, because it's really like the whole point of the game is whoever rolls the dice the best. You know what I mean? It's completely luck based. There's no real decision making done in that game. So yeah, you get up the ladder, you go down the chute.
Listeners who love Shoots and Ladders and swear that it has strategy to it, please write in, comment in, tell David how he's wrong.
Please tell me I'm wrong.
Defend your honor.
Fight me. Yeah, no.
But I think it's safe to say that the games we're going to talk about are geared more towards nerds. Definitely more of a nerdy board game type thing. And I've played board games as an adult that weren't necessarily nerdy, and
yeah,
during college round one for me.
College round one, I love it. I'm about to have a college round one.
I had groups of friends that we would get together with and play games, and a lot of them were apples to apples.
Apples to apples is good.
Like we played Taboo. Or something
fun.
Similar to it. Buzzword. Other sort of games like that you play with your friends. And
party games. Yeah, party games are really good.
Games that are more about knowing your friends better than
and
everyone.
also a lot of the games like that are like get to know you kinds of games, and they're also they're also meant for like a lot of players, like anywhere between like eight or more sometimes, depending on the game. So those are really neat for parties as it is. But yeah, like a lot of the games we're going to talk about, or the games I have, I guess, have specific player ranges, like 4 players to 6 players or 8 players at most, things like that.
Definitely.
I don't have as many party games. I need to get some because there's some really neat ones.
Good.
Yeah, Zombie Dice is good. You can play with that infinite players. You can play Werewolf with a bunch of people.
That's true. Werewolf's super duper fun. But I don't know. Teaser, trailer for the games we're going to talk about. We like Betrayal. We like the DC Deck Builder. We like Smash Up. I love me some Smash Up.
Smash Up's good. Smash Up's really
King
solid.
of Tokyo, Boss Monster, Zombie Dice we mentioned.
The Firefly board game.
Firefly board game, that's great.
Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Super good game.
Gosh, greater than games. If you don't know who they are, look them up. Their games are amazing.
Super good.
They're super good. I need to get their other stuff. I need to get their new stuff about. They have I forget what the name of the game is, but there's a game where like you guys each play spirits and you're protecting this island from like the invasion of this group, like this colony of people, we're to assume probably Spaniards, are trying to come in and take over this natural island, and each of you is representing like the fire elemental and the water elemental and stuff like that. And you guys are like basically like spirits that are just like kind of fleshing these people out, and you guys are working together. So that looks like a fun game. I really want to get my hands on it. But yeah. Pandemic. That's a good one. Werewolf.
That game is so difficult.
Coup. Love Letter. Some smaller games like that.
Legendary,
yeah. Marvel's
Super
Legendary, or just Legendary in general, because they also have now they have Firefly, and they have got Alien and Predator and things like that.
Epic Spell Wars.
Yes, Epic Spell Wars is good. That's a good one. Goodness gracious.
What's the other one we played with Clausen? That was shoot. They had like 4 different planes, right? Mm-hmm. And you could protect different ones at certain points.
Tiny Epic Defenders.
Tiny Epic Defenders.
That game is real hard.
Yeah.
He and I worked together. We probably beat it twice?
I think we beat it once when I played.
Yeah, you beat it once with us, and then I think I beat it one other time with him. It's a tough game. Man, that's a really tough game. Most of the games I've played that involve you working together are really tough. Escape's really tough.
Yes.
At least the first few times you play it. After you get it, you get it. Takanoko's good, which you still haven't played.
Nope. Feeding the Panda.
Yeah. I want to get the expansion where you get some little baby pandas.
I'm a huge fan of tactics games, as I've expressed before, and tactics games exist not only as video games, but also as board games. And there's a game called Crossmaster Arena, which is real fun.
Yep.
I enjoy that quite a bit.
It's a good game. A lot of little characters and expansions for that game. We need to get our hands on some more of those characters. I haven't seen any more at conventions. Maybe there'll be some at San Japan.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
Whew. I'm developing a list of things to look out for and purchase while I'm there.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Got some anime. I'm gonna get another sibling for Sammy.
Yeah. Yep. Gotta get the cat pillows.
Sammy's my cat pillow.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'm excited. Super pumped to be there. Any hoozles.
So, what kinds of board games do you like generally?
So I lean more towards card-based games.
Yeah, I was about to say, we play a lot of card games, card-based games.
I really like Smash Up and Boss Monster and the DC Deck Builder.
Yeah. I like a lot of deck building games because we played a little bit of Ascension. Yeah, not Dominion, but Ascension.
We played Ascension. We've also played that other one. What's the one when you're in space?
Star Realms.
Star
Realms is good. Yeah,
gosh,
that's a good one.
I was talking with a group of people the other day that I had just met and found out they were into games, and they were like naming off stuff. With this, and we played this game and it was like this before. And it's like, oh yeah, that's Shadows over Camelot. Different things like that. We were just naming stuff back and forth, and we got to this game, and we both knew what we were talking about.
But you couldn't think of the name.
Neither of us could remember the name of that game.
No,
Star Realms.
It's a good game. It's better than I thought. Me and Clausen had a few games with that, and we had some really neat combinations, man.
Yeah, no, they're cool.
Yeah,
whew. You gotta get the heels in that game.
Yeah, it's a tough game because as opposed to DC deck building, when you go into it, you really don't have a strategy pre-built to your character. You're not I need to buy these cards. It's just you basically have to go with what you see on the board, and you kind of have to build a strategy with the cards you're building. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
We had some really
because with Star Realms you can choose to attack, you can choose to purchase, or you can choose to heal, or you can do any number of those during a turn. You just got to decide early on which one of those you care about most.
Yeah, definitely.
Put a lot of your assets into that. Yeah. Whew. But I think I often gravitate I gravitate towards card games, like I said, and I enjoy competitive card games with people who don't mind playing board games competitively.
Yeah.
Just you got to gauge your audience. You got to gauge who you're with. Your friends. If you're with nerdy friends who like board games and who want to learn the rules and know them really well and really compete and get to know the game.
Yeah,
that's different than
some games
with a group of people of mixed company that may not all be into the nerdy thing that you do. And so
some games are tougher for newer players to pick up. Or say newer players, but like not necessarily new to the game, because I love learning new games, but sometimes new to board gaming as a hobby, basically.
So I'd say a good game I think to introduce people to games like this or nerdy games like that, and to have them still have a good time, I think is Betrayal.
Yeah.
As long as at least two people really understand how to play that game, the rest of the crew can have a good time, I think. It maxes out at 6 players. It's cooperative for the most part, with the exception of if you're playing with all 6, or if you're playing with any number, eventually one of you becomes the traitor, becomes the bad guy, and then it's that traitor and their monster or their abilities against the other 5 people who remain as normal humans.
Yeah.
It's a real fun game.
That's always neat. I like when we have games like game nights where we have a bunch of people that have never played that game before, and we teach them how to play Betrayal, and then one of the new players becomes the traitor, and they're like, "Oh, no, I've never done this before," and it's just like, then like once you figure it out, like it becomes a really interesting game.
It's also good. I really like what you do. Oftentimes when we have groups of people together and we play Betrayal, is you'll often opt to be like a DM.
GM. I like to sit. I'll sit by and basically help whoever is new learn how to play the game,
which I feel is
I'll help whoever becomes the traitor know what kind of strategies to look out for.
Precisely, and I feel like that's a good strategy, especially when you're getting people into stuff. If you're trying to get people into games or whatever that you like, have someone there to act like you have acted as a GM, as a person, as a guardian angel to help them not
We've had situations in the past where we were outnumbered by people who didn't know how to play a game that we were trying to teach them, and it's been a struggle sometimes. That
there are definitely games that I've learned not to play in those situations. Smash Up is super one of them. We can sort of get a handle on it now.
Yeah.
Because I think both of us have gotten better at teaching people how to play games, because most of the time if we get any number of group together, it's always different. It's different people every time.
We have to,
And so
we're really good at explaining games now.
Someone somewhere has to learn how to play this game. But Smash Up is one that I often won't introduce to a group until we've played other games. And until we've been consistent with other games.
Yeah, for sure. King of Tokyo is fantastic. Been pretty easy to pick up lately.
That is
that's a newer one you've added to your
one's a great
collection, and that's been super good for new people.
Great game for new people, for people that don't, because it's not. I mean, honestly, that's one of the only ones I think we have that's just basic mechanics of a game, of a dice rolling game, just with a monster aesthetic on top of it.
Yeah,
like nerdy aesthetic.
The dice rolling mechanic is similar to a popular game. What is it? Yahtzee?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't played it, but I know.
Yeah.
Anytime we introduce you to somebody, they're like, "Oh, it's like this game," and I'm like, "Oh, sure, I guess."
You roll 6 dice, and each side is different, and you're trying to get a multiple of the same, essentially, multiple of the same side of dice, in order to help you with different things in the game, and you're playing for points. But there's also a couple extra elements that are added into other games, like you have health. And there are cards you can use, purchase, and use. Yeah,
you can damage one another for attacking one another and things like that. So there's some complexities to it, but it's in and of itself, the basics of it is really simple and easy to pick up.
Yes,
which has been super helpful for teaching new people board games.
The game is magical. It's good.
Meanwhile, they have games like the Firefly board game, which I have trouble getting people to play with me.
But it's so fun.
It is really fun. And anytime
that game is great.
Yeah, I've played it with lots of people who haven't ever seen Firefly, and they're like, it's a really good board game. But two things about it is there's a lot to it. There's a lot of game to that game.
Yeah.
And it can go on for a long time. So it's great if you get like a bunch of like really nerdy friends together who are willing to like sit down and make a night of it. Basically, you can play that game and you can play to your heart's content. Me and Jake one time got together and we played a game of Firefly where we basically we both could have gotten the final goal, but instead we just wandered around space and did missions.
Did
like, you know what I mean? We just bought stuff and we just built up our crew and things like that. And it was just, we just had a blast. Like, we just did side quests, basically.
Here, let's do this. First, I want to talk a little bit about like why I like board games and why I gravitated more towards them than video games. And as I've gotten older, and then also I think we should let's do a top 3 games that we would introduce to people.
Oh, jeez.
And top 3 for your nerdy friends who already
Okay, get. All right. I'm going to say, because I'm just like, oh, man, that's like all of my games gone. Like, I like complicated games. I like the nerdy games. And then
maybe we could do maybe we can just do a top 5 of our favorite of what we have.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
Let's do that. First off, I like board games probably because of a couple of things, but one of the big things for me is the social aspect.
Yeah,
I enjoy the fact that it requires other human beings to physically sit down with you and play a game.
Yes, you have to look people in the face and talk to them. There's no anonymity of the internet.
Correct. You can't hide behind the internet.
Rages,
you can't troll people.
They can just reach across the table and choke you.
Yes. Like. That's right. So you are more careful about what you do, unless you're really close with all your friends, and you can just be a troll and be a jerk for no reason.
Yeah.
Which we've run into, but fine.
Which we've run into. Yep.
So
not everybody's great. It happens.
But I enjoy that. It brings people together. It allows you to have a good time, and especially like, again, if they're friends of yours that you play games with, it allows you to have a good time figuring something out together. Learning something together.
Yep. I feel that the social aspect of it, of board games myself, and for me, I tend to lean towards. I really enjoy games where, as opposed to you guys fighting one another, you guys are working together to reach some kind of common goal, because I find those way more like compelling to see. Like, you get a bunch of friends together and we're like, hey guys, we have this big great conflict we have to overcome, and we have to work together and we have to talk to one another to figure it out.
I agree with that. That is fun. So like,
I always like finding new games that do that kind of stuff, right, especially like really difficult games.
Because they're not as easy to find as competitive games. Mm-hmm. Competitive games, I think, are easier to. A lot of people design competitive games. You know what I mean? So people want people to fight. We play things like Betrayal is more or less cooperative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some competitive element, but it's mainly cooperative. Yeah.
Sentinels of the Multiverse is cooperative, super fun game. There's a cooperative version of
Ghost
DC
Stories.
Deck Builder.
Yep.
I haven't played that one yet.
Ghost Stories is really tough, but it's good. Escape.
Yes, I really like Escape, David.
Yeah.
That was a seamless transition.
Yes, quite. I have no idea what I was saying about Escape.
We were talking about how things are cooperative. I like how Escape is a cooperative game. Mm-hmm. It's also a very stressful game.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun.
Time sensitive.
That's only
an interesting
lasts
mechanic
10 minutes.
for a board game. Yeah.
Gosh, yes.
That's an interesting mechanic.
And so I think that one's fun because it allows you to see. It allows you and all of your friends to be in a very stressful situation without any high risk, and that's really cool to see with all of your friends.
I feel
it's even fun for people who are watching, because you can only play with 5-6 people max.
Escape, it's 5. I want to say it's 5.
Yeah, I think it's 5 max.
Players max.
And so other people can watch, and it's still fun. That game's gnarly. That one's super fun. I'd put that on my list of 3 to introduce people to games.
No, it's pretty good, and it's neat how. So I like, one of the things I think is interesting is when we teach a lot of people board games, we always tend to have at least like 1 or 2 people that are in the group that are like, oh, I'll just watch this round. I don't want to play. Yeah. Like they're too scared to try it out. But yeah, when Escape is one of those games that you can watch and you can pick up pretty quickly. Like it's not that hard to do. It's a lot like, and again, I feel like it harkens back a little bit to how King of Tokyo is, where it's just like you're rolling dice and you're trying to get a certain result, and like that's the main mechanic of the game. Like there's a little bit more complexity to it depending on the rooms and traps and goofy things like that, but mainly the goal is to roll dice and get the right dice rolls. So so the game is in and of itself is pretty simple.
Yeah, I think another thing I enjoy about board games, as opposed to video games or things like that, is that they require more imagination from you.
Yeah.
And I just think that's good. As a creative person, I enjoy that, and I think that's necessary. That's good for you to be able to visualize things in your head and create things more mentally.
I feel that especially in games where there's an overarching theme or a narrative being told in the game itself, like in Betrayal, like when you're playing Betrayal and somebody's playing the little girl and they're the traitor. Everybody can imagine this like spooky little girl like trying to kill people in the house, or doing some sort of feat of strength because her might stat got really high, or goofy things like that.
Definitely.
So that's always really funny. And then Smash Up, similar, like when you see factions doing different things and stuff. That's always a really neat thing to think about.
I think there's one other thing that I really like about board games that I'm going to do my best to pry out of my head because I forgot what it was.
Oh, that's the best.
I can do this. It was in my brain just a second ago. Ba 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 ba. Oh, it's a replay value.
Yes.
So the replayability of a lot of board games is, I think, better than a lot of video games because, especially if you're just playing a video game in a first person, sort of, because a lot of games nowadays there's just like there's a storyline, and once you've played through that storyline, there's not much else for you in the game, unless you're playing like maybe a massive online multiplayer game. At that point, it's just you waiting for the company to put out patches and new things. Some games like Telltale games or Mass Effect have different endings, different things like that you can pathways that you can follow. But with a lot of board games, it's especially in Betrayal. I love Betrayal for that replay value of that game. There are 50 different scenarios in the base game, and the expansion adds another 50, so there's 100 different possible scenarios. And the house builds itself differently every time you play.
Which different items come out, different events come out.
Super
different
cool.
stats and stuff change throughout the games.
You look at things like Smash Up. You have different bases, you have different combinations every time.
Different combinations of factions,
Yeah, I just think I find board games more fun to play again.
Yeah.
And also because
there are some games I've been seeing lately that have been coming out that don't have replay value, and it's so jarring to me. Yeah. Like for instance, there's legacy board games that are coming out.
Yes.
Where it's like every time you play the game, you affect the game permanently.
It's like this is a little bit of replay value. This is a different type of
replay value. But like that's one thing. But then there's games like Time Stories.
Time Stories, you told me about that one.
Where it's like you're playing through a story,
right?
And it's like basically like there's all these twists and turns and stuff that you have to do, but you kind of figure them out as you play the game, and then after that you've figured it out. You know what I mean? There's no reason to play it ever again.
Yeah, that's real weird.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that there's how it is for a lot of mystery games. Like we've done, like, it's not a board game, but we've done murder mysteries before.
True.
And I've bought them off online, like. Once I've played a murder mystery, everything about it.
You know who done it.
But one of the reasons I like owning a murder mystery is because now that I've played all the murder mysteries I own, I can always host a murder mystery party.
Which is so fun.
A bunch of people who've never played it, and that's always a blast.
So good, yeah. But I enjoy even things like Firefly, that board game. That's different every time. It has different objectives that you can choose to play.
Different game modes, different styles of play.
And I think that's cool. And that requires you, so like a video game you can play for hours by yourself and get better at. But board games require you to get a group of friends together, to have friends with you in order to play it. And every time you're playing it, you're getting better at it. But you have to have friends there to play it with you. Much like trading card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, things that we like. It requires another human being to participate with you.
I much prefer playing trading card games in person than I do on like Hearthstone or on MTGO. Like I would much rather be able to like face my opponent and play cards against them than to just like have a computer screen between us. Like, no, I really thoroughly enjoy that physical aspect, that social aspect.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun. And so I think with that, my top 3 for newcomers to games, to board games, would definitely be Betrayal, assuming that you have someone who knows how to play it and has played it before. King of Tokyo and Escape.
Okay, yeah, I can see those.
Those are the 3 that I would use. But that's
for me. I have some simple mechanics. For me, I think some of the smaller games that I own are really good about teaching people games. Like for me, probably the top one I'd put up there would be Love Letter, because it's a little card game, and it's like the game itself. The game itself only has like 13 cards or something like that. So it's just like, there's not much to shuffle. It's so easy to set up, and you play through rounds like every minute or so. Like it's pretty quick to get through.
And I think that's a good reason. That's a good choice. is because since it's simple, right? You said there's only like 13 cards. There's not a whole lot to it, but it also gets people used to reading a card.
Yes, to figure out what it does.
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To figure out its effect, because so
read
many people,
the cards. The cards tell you what they do.
I think a lot of people are used, when they hear the word card game, they're used to like poker, or they're used to a game where the cards themselves aren't anything more than a number, or a system of symbols, and you know the rules and you play with those cards like that. Whereas there's tons of games out there.
I so dislike games like that, where it's like the rules are in your head as opposed to.
Right, I understand that. Yeah,
I don't know. I like having to be able to reference the rules anytime I want. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm such a rules lord.
That is the thing with card games. Yeah, is a lot of them are passed down. Where like someone wrote down the rules sometime somewhere, but we don't have those written down. We're just trusting grandma.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
not screw us over. But those grandmas.
Well, something I was told when I was young was that it doesn't matter what the rules are as long as you guys are all, obeying the rules. As long as you guys are all playing the same rules, you guys are playing the same game. So, but yeah, but
I thought you were gonna say it doesn't matter what the rules are as long as you're having fun.
That too,
and I was gonna say, that sounds like a loser wrote that.
Right? No. But no, Love Letter's up there for me, and then Takanoko is up there for me too. I know you haven't played it, but it's a pretty simple game in and of itself, in that like there's a lot of different ways to play the game and a lot of different ways to win the game. Like you mentioned, like you feed the panda, but like you get points for feeding the panda, but you also get points for growing bamboo, and you also get points for placing land and irrigating it with water.
That's cool.
And things like that. And so you're building a farm. Everybody's building a farm basically as a group, but you guys are each doing it to achieve different objectives that each of you have drawn from the objective deck cards. And so it's really neat, and it's also super adorable. The panda's so cute.
You're super adorable, David.
Oh, I try. But yeah, so Love Letter, Takanoko, and then I think Betrayal for me too. I think Betrayal's got to be up in the top 3. Betrayal's super easy to pick up, and it doesn't feel like it at first because there is so much to the game,
right?
But it's just been we've gotten so good at teaching it. It's just such an easy game to pick up.
And it introduces... I'm going to just try and talk about why these are all good choices. Betrayal, I think, introduces people to the aspect that characters have traits.
Yep. You have statistics
that are affectable.
And stuff. Yeah.
Right. So like which I think could prepare someone for a jump into like D&D or something of that nature, where you have tons of different traits, tons of different abilities that you can put stats in and things of that nature. And in Betrayal, you have might, speed, sanity, and knowledge. Those are your 4 traits, and they can go up or down depending on what happens to you throughout the course of the game.
And those
it teaches you how to keep track of things like that.
Those are similar to the most role-playing games statistics and such.
It teaches you how to keep track of that and understand how that affects you as a player. And it teaches you how to think as a team. Also, people who are learning it and figuring it out. Yeah,
it also teaches you like just the basic mechanics of a lot of games. Like there's dice rolling in that game. There's attacking and defending. There's cards, and you have to read cards to see what they do. You have items that you pick up that you can affect the game board with.
And you get an objective every game.
Yep. All those different things, and then like you have cooperative and competitive aspects of the game. So it's like Betrayal is neat because it's like 100 board games in one. Like there's just so much you can learn from it and so much you can get out of it. So that's really neat.
I also mentioned King of Tokyo. I think it does a good job of introducing people to dice rolling, things of that nature.
And cards as well.
Yeah, like I said. Just has a few little cards put into it that you can use to affect your character, but it's not a totally card-based game like Smash Up or like the DC deck builder.
There's also an aspect of currency, because a lot of card games have some form of currency or something you use to purchase cards or purchase upgrades.
And they do it physically. They have physical cubes that represent your currency, so you don't have to keep a tally in your head or count something up every turn.
Yep.
You have it right there in front of you, which I think is a real big help for people who are getting used to the concept of having a currency in a game.
It's a very tactile game for sure.
Yeah. Super fun. And
I played one I played a version of it at PAX South where they had giant cutouts of the monsters, like probably like 4 feet tall, like up to your chest high version of the monsters, and you rolled dice that were giant, and like you took both your arms to like wrap around them and to like drop them, and they were kind of bouncy. They were like made of like bouncy soft fabric, and so they'd bounce and roll, and then you would play the board game that way, because the board game itself is just a square with 2 circles in it. So like it was easy to replicate, and they basically just made a print that they just taped to the ground, and then you basically had your character that was like as big as you, basically, that would put on the map.
That is swag.
It was great. It was a great game.
That's like when you see the human-sized chess pieces, games.
And things like it was great. It was it was very similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a super fun game, and it's a good, simple, solid game with a few characteristics of more in-depth games, and it's got an aesthetic that's just kind of pasted over the top of it, of monsters, like, because you're playing a monster who's trying to destroy Tokyo City.
Yep.
Like,
it's a very playful game.
So that's it's King of the Hill with Tokyo and monsters.
Yeah, that's another one with a neat narrative, in that like you can buy upgrades that make your character more ridiculous, like having an extra head or having tentacles.
That's another thing. Yeah, like Betrayal at House on the Hill. I don't know if we mentioned the exact thing of it, but you're like the Scooby-Doo gang, and you're exploring this haunted house that builds itself as you play it. And one of you eventually becomes the traitor and causes what's called a haunt. So the haunt scenario, so like a big bad monster will come in, and the traitor is someone who's helping the monster accomplish.
Sometimes the traitor is the monster.
Sometimes the traitor dies, just sacrificed to a demon or something, and the demon pops up, and then the person who's playing the traitor just plays the monster.
Sometimes there's not a traitor. Sometimes it's just like the house is under attack or something, or the house is picked up, and you guys are basically fighting amongst yourselves to get out, and those kinds of things. There's some really fun ones. We always come back with some really neat stories from that game. I could go on and on about stories from Betrayal, because there's some really fun ones that we've had. But yeah,
maybe we'll do that one day. We'll talk about my favorite stories from Betrayal. Goodness gracious. What other one did I say? Escape.
Yeah.
I chose Escape for my my top 3 to introduce people to, because again, it's it might be best to do it after you've played a game where you introduce dice rolling, maybe.
Yeah,
that might
help. Play King of Tokyo or something first,
and then play Escape. But I think it's not too difficult to pick up. It's essentially, in Escape, you play as like 5 explorers or whatever who are trapped in a temple, and trying to escape before the temple seals itself off and you all die. So you've triggered some type of self-destruction, some sort of booby trap in this temple, and you're all trying to get out. And in order to go from room to room, you have to roll dice that matches that and get matching or corresponding symbols on those dice, and you use those to go through
into the different rooms. You have to collect crystals to help you unlock the door, as well as finding the exit door to get out. And you guys all have to escape, or none of you win. So that's what is really neat. It puts you guys all on the spot.
Everyone wins or no one wins. So if 4 people get out and 5th person's still trapped inside, when the time goes up, you lose.
And I like we talked before about how it's a time-sensitive game. We don't play a whole lot of time-sensitive games, but that's one of them where like you either they have hourglass, because some board games have hourglasses, but it also has music that makes the game way more intense, because it has music and sound effects that really bring the intensity of the game up, because you have until the music stops basically to get out, and that's super intense. And I like how every time we've played that game, like that's a board game you work up a sweat. Like you get that stress sweats, like oh man. And also like the game, I love how every time I play that game I start like sitting at the table, but by the end of the game you're all standing.
No one sits for that game. It's ridiculous.
You just get so stressed. You gotta stand up.
Oh man. And heaven forbid you drop a die off of the table.
Right, and then panic trying to get it.
Gosh, that game it's super fun to participate in, but also to watch. And again, it puts you and your friends in a stressful situation that has no major risk. Yeah. And so it's fun to be able to just see how you all react in that.
Yeah.
And it's also fun to learn, because 9 times out of 10, if you introduce it to a group and if there's people that haven't played it, the first time you'll play, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And then you're going to want to keep playing, though. And eventually you will get, like, your crew will develop a strategy to get out of it and to win.
Yeah.
And that's cool to watch and cool to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah, like once you guys start playing a few games, you guys start to get it, and that's always fun. Like I remember, anytime I've ever shown that game to somebody, you'll definitely lose like the first or second game, but once you guys get it, like it's tough to keep losing after that. Like, but it's always stressful, even when you guys have a plan and you guys know what you're doing. It's always still stressful.
Game's so fun.
Yep.
Oh man,
it's a good one. But yeah, no, I think I already covered Love Letter and Takenoko and why I picked those.
Right.
Do we want to talk about games we'd pick for more advanced players?
More advanced players, people that have played games and are comfortable learning new games and playing games, board games specifically.
Games that people want to have a challenge with.
I'd say Smash Up, Sentinels of the Multiverse. And it would either be the DC Deck Builder or it'd be the Firefly board game. I'll say DC Deck Builder.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'd say for me it'd be Sentinels of the Multiverse, just because I really love that game and it's up there. It's a more advanced game. Followed shortly by Firefly, the board game, and then after that by DC Deck Building, because I guess in order of like hardest to pick up / nerdiest commitment, I feel it'd be Sentinels, Firefly, DC, because DC, it's like as nerdy as it is and as complicated as that game, it's not that difficult to pick up when you teach a new player, but yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah, because it's basically a card game, and it, like we mentioned before, it has a currency, but it's like you mentioned, it doesn't have a tangible element to that currency. So you kind of have to do math in your head and stuff, and that gets kind of confusing for some people.
Numbers are hard, David.
Yeah, man. People didn't do well in math.
Gracious.
People don't like math. It's just a fact. But no, I really, really thoroughly enjoy Sentinels of the Multiverse because it has a similar stressful element as Escape, in that you guys are all working together. So in Sentinels of the Multiverse, everyone is in the game is playing a hero. They're represented by a pre-constructed deck for that hero, about how that hero plays, and you guys are all working together to fight a particular supervillain in a particular location in the game. And because there's so many possibilities of hero, environment, villain combinations, there's so many ways to play that game, and it has such good replay value. But there's certain heroes that are more complicated than others. There's certain villains that are more difficult to beat than others. And there's so many cards and combinations of cards that work together in each of the characters' decks and stuff. So that one's a really neat and rather nerdy deck. And that really teaches you to read the cards and figure out what they do and understand the nuances of the game, because there's a lot of like bits of damage being dealt to one another and things like that. That's a good game for people that are interested in or familiar with trading card games, because it carries a lot of the same kind of mechanics as trading card games do, except you guys don't have to build decks. You guys already have pre-built decks, and you're playing against a villain who's playing themselves basically by drawing the cards off the top of their deck.
I think that game's a really fun. Also, and that game might be a good game for people who are big into video games or who play a lot of video games, and maybe want to try out some board games or card games. Because we played once with my friend Corey. He just came in and like jumped in on the game with us, and he had never played it before, and he's not a huge board game person. He played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh when I was into it, but as he was learning it and as he was playing it, he was like, This is basically an RP. This is an RPG. This is like Final Fantasy XIV, the card game. Because you have a tank. You got a guy over here that's keeping the attention of
the villain.
You've got a
because the
villain
doesn't pick characters to fight. It generally will say something like whoever has the most HP or whoever is dealing the most damage. Or
it has some type of gambit or some type of a system to choose its
good word, gambit from Final Fantasy 12.
Has some way
some sort of algorithm it uses,
choosing its victims per se, and you can play with that. You can play to that, and you can get someone in a position where they're just soaking the damage, and you can have other people throwing damage at the villain, be a DPS, and you can have healers. There are people who are built to be healers in the game, which is really cool.
It is. It's a very neat thing, I think.
And so you have to figure that out. You have to take that into account when playing the game and figure out who's... And there are support characters, too. There are people who just do more utility support type stuff. Yes. And that's really, really cool and really fun. That game also has a really cool mythos.
Yeah.
It's a superhero game
Mm-hmm.
that's not any type of licensed universe. So they just, rather than going through the trouble of licensing DC or Marvel, they just created their own universe of superheroes and villains
Yep.
with their own backstories and all that stuff. And like
Yep.
they act like they're referencing comic books.
Yeah,
that
a lot of the
exist,
cards, each
but
of the
they-
cards will have a
comics
reference
don't
to a
exist.
comic on the bottom, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
comics
yeah.
don't exist. Yeah,
It's really cool. It's really fun.
There's Reddit database, there's Reddit threads I've seen where people have made a database where they've collected all of the different references from the different comics to see like where all these lines would come from, and you can kind of sort of piece together a story there, but mainly it's just really tough. But each of the game comes with like a kind of a backstory about how the hero got their powers or what they're doing,
Right.
and the villains the same way, like why they're bad and what they're doing and those kinds of things. And so it's really neat, and it's they also have like there's even narrative built into the mechanics of the game with that with the nemesis system, in that if you're fighting a particular villain and one of you is playing the hero that's that villain's nemesis, you'll deal extra damage to the villain, and the villain will deal extra damage to you when they fight you. And so that's kind of neat, I think. Especially when you have there's one of the villains who's probably the hardest villain. There's a character in Sentinels named Legacy, and Legacy is basically the Superman of the game. And there's a version of Superman or version of Legacy where he goes evil, kind of like in the Justice timeline that I talked about before, where he's called Iron Legacy. And in Iron Legacy,
yeah.
instead of having just one nemesis, he has multiple nemesi, which are the members of the Freedom 5, which are Freedom 6, which are basically this game's equivalent to the Justice League, basically. And so it's like if you're using any of those heroes, he's dealing extra damage to you the entire time. But then at the same time, you're all dealing extra damage to him. And so honestly, when me and Jake played that villain, the best way we found out to fight him is just using the Freedom 5, because then it's personal. You know what I mean? And it makes the game so much more intense.
That is cool. This game also, I feel, upon winning, there's a really good sense of accomplishment.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because it typically, especially for the more difficult, the villains are ranked by difficulty.
Yep.
And especially for the more difficult villains, you really do have to think through your turn.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do, how you're going to use the resources you have.
Not just through your turn, but through everyone's turn.
Right.
You guys all have to be on the
attention
same
and know
page and know what
everybody's
you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you actually pull off a win, it's worth something.
Oh, yeah.
You feel that, and that's really
super
cool.
satisfying.
That's really, satisfying. That's the word.
Mm-hmm.
Really effective build for a game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and then a good judge, I think, of what a good game is how you feel after you win.
Yep. Firefly is a good game in that you guys it's competitive. You guys are trying to fight one another. But it's almost I don't want to say too competitive. It's almost to the point. So in the base game, if you don't have any of the expansions, there's almost no interactions with the other players. You guys are all kind of flying through space doing your own thing, and you almost never interact with one another. You guys are basically just kind of sitting around the table. But I've gotten a few of the expansions, and they kind of expand the universe and stuff and help the game. There's more interactions and stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah. Those are things I'm going to be looking for at Teenage Mutant is more expansions, because I don't have all the expansions for that game.
Good plan.
And I don't have all the expansions for a couple of the board games I own, actually.
Aren't there 2 different Firefly board games?
I don't think so.
I thought there was another one.
And there's other board games with Firefly. So in Firefly, the show, they play a card game, where they're betting chores on it, and someone made a game of that card game,
Gotcha.
where you're betting on plums or whatever the cards are. They have that, and then they do have some other board games that are themed around Firefly, but they're not necessarily called the Firefly board game. They're all called something else.
Gotcha.
And I know what you're talking about. There is one where you guys are playing members of Firefly, and you guys are working your way through episodes of the show. Basically, you guys are you guys are working on the train heist and stuff like that. I really want to get that game. I haven't gotten it, but I think it's called. I want to say it's called Into the Black or something, but I know that's one of the expansions for the Firefly board game. I also know that there are 2 different Firefly RPGs, tabletop RPGs. There's a Firefly RPG, and then there's a Serenity RPG. Because I think whoever owned the Firefly RPG lost a license or something to do it, and to continue making stuff, they had to make a Serenity RPG. I don't know, something goofy like that. But they're both different in their core rules and such. I used to have the rulebook for the Firefly board game RPG. I ended up giving it to a friend. That one looked like a lot of fun, but we never did get around to playing a session.
The board game is a lot of fun though. It's really cool, and in this one, you're not playing as members of the crew of the Serenity.
Mm-hmm.
You are the captain of your own ship,
mm-hmm.
and you can acquire different crew
mm-hmm.
throughout and different things, and you take on jobs from different people throughout that appear in the show.
Yep.
And you also have these opportunities called Aim to Misbehave,
yes.
which are like these chance cards.
Those
you pull them, and like it gives you like two options essentially. You can either do this thing to get this, or do this thing to get this.
And generally they're both pretty difficult or hard, sometimes
mm-hmm.
even impossible.
Yeah.
And then some of them have like ace in the holes, where it's like if you have this character or you have this item or you have this much whatever, you just automatically succeed on it.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't have any win conditions. So some
mm-hmm.
of them you draw the card and you're screwed.
You
like
just gotta suffer through it.
Yeah.
But those also give the most benefits if you win, and a lot of them are required for some of the jobs you take.
Yep.
So some of the more illegal jobs you take.
Yeah, some of the illegal jobs you take.
Yeah, you can choose to play things by the book and be like follow the rules and all that stuff, or you can choose to do some under the table kind of difficult or illegal
mm-hmm.
and thereby more difficult jobs
mm-hmm.
that get you to your goal of money and such faster.
Yeah, whatever the case may be. Yeah, whatever your objective is. Yeah. But again, that one's a really complicated game. It's tough for new players because of it, and it's huge. Like the game mat itself is pretty big, and then when the expansions, like a couple of the expansions, expand the board game.
Truth.
And so that's something I'm gonna get at some point. But also on their website now, or I forget the company that made it, they've introduced like a rollout version of the board game so that you can store it easier as opposed to having just this cardboard block thing basically that folds out into the tangible hardcover board game basically. So it's neat to have like a mat basically that again you'd have to get a big enough table and quite a few people, but yeah.
But I mean, if you're serious
cool.
about board games, you have a big enough table.
I was like, if you have some nerdy friends and you guys got some time and you guys want some put some hours into a board game, Firefly is a great one. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'd agree. We've been through Smash Up. I mentioned Smash Up. Smash Up's really cool.
Yeah. Talk about Smash Up.
Smash Up is a game where you take... the game has several 20-card decks. And each deck is you refer to it as a faction, and it's basically a different group of characters. So you have a faction of dinosaurs, you have a faction of ninjas, you got a faction of superheroes, you got a faction of fairies, you got a faction of dragons, you got a faction of werewolves, you got a faction of princesses, you got a faction of grannies,
geeks, teddy bears,
ghosts,
bear
elder
cavalry,
things, sharks,
steampunks,
twisters, or tornadoes.
Yeah, Sharknadoes.
So you can create the Sharknado. So essentially, you pick two of these things and you put them together and make one 40-card deck out of two 20-card decks.
Yeah.
So they call it Smash Up. For that reason, you pick two factions, smash them up, and then you fight. And the way it works, there are different bases that are put out on the board, and the bases will award a certain amount of points to the winners of the fights on those bases. So you put minions on bases to try and amass a certain amount of power for yourself on that base. And once a certain amount of power has been reached between everybody who's playing on a base, that base will then be scored, and whoever has the most power there gets points. And the second and third also get points.
That one's a tough, so that's a game that's really easy to pick up, but it's really tough to master all the nuances of it. There's a lot of because of the way the scoring system is set up, where it's there's a first, second, and third for every base and stuff. Right. There's a lot of ways for everybody to get points through the cards themselves, and a lot of strategies inlaid with the different decks and how they mash up together. There's just so many little intricacies of that board game. It's hard to know all the things there is to know.
And that's another board game that I feel is really good for TCG players.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's because anyone who plays Magic or plays Yu-Gi-Oh or plays Hearthstone or plays any other trading card game is familiar with a game that has its own lingo. It has its own language.
Yeah.
And different words that mean different things. When I say banish in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a word in Magic. Was it exile?
Exile. Yep.
You exile, and that just means removing a card from the game that you're currently playing.
Yep.
And so in Smash Up, it has similar things to that. You have like move words like play, move, ongoing, talent,
Yep.
special. Before base scores, after base scores, while a base is scoring, different things like
There's
that.
different phases of a turn, basically, that are involved.
And you have to understanding the structure of a turn in trading card games. It helps, I think, a lot for anyone who's playing Smash Up.
Yep.
To understand when things are played, or how things should be played, and how things should be resolved.
Yeah.
So, but if you can help people understand it, again, this is one that we've recently introduced to some groups of our friends, but after playing things like Betrayal and King of Tokyo with them and different things like that, and I think they get it for the most part. It's really fun once you grasp. Once everybody knows what they're doing, it's super fun to play, and it's a game that can be played with 2 people or with 20 people. I don't recommend playing with any more than like 7.
Didn't we play with like
8? We played with 10 once.
10 once.
And that was
yeah
insane because you and I were the only 2 people that really knew how to play.
So that was one of those situations where we were
8 people that didn't know how to play.
Yeah, we were
this game,
outnumbered and like
us.
For that it really backfired on us because it really backfired on us because the people that we were playing with weren't really strapped in for the fact that we were going to have like hour-long turns basically because everybody was like playing off one another.
Well, because when you say, hey, we're going to get together and play some board games, some people really are expecting apples to apples or just a simple party game. They're not expecting you to throw out this giant card game with a bunch of words they have to learn how to use and different phases and rules and things like that. Some people just aren't, like you said, aren't ready, aren't committed to a really in-depth gaming experience when you say, hey, let's play a board game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you gotta learn to read your audience a little bit, read your room.
Yep.
But I think that's why we bring, for anytime we set something up and just say, hey, we're gonna have a game night, everybody come. We are never sure who really is gonna be there, and so we always prepare by bringing simpler games and our more in-depth games.
So, what would be your favorite board game to play? Not necessarily to show people, or not necessarily for neat geeks to play, but something you like to play the most.
I'm gonna give you my top 3.
Okay, give me top 3.
Top 3 that I just love to play.
Yep.
I love Betrayal.
Yes.
I love that game so much.
Oh yeah.
It's so fun. The replay value is great. I love playing it again and again, learning different things, and my favorite instance in that game is winning as the traitor.
Yes.
That is the most satisfying, one of the most satisfying wins ever.
Oh yeah.
And I've done it a couple of times, and I feel like I can take on the world after doing so. It's like, yeah, what's up? Beat all 5 of y'all. Mm-hmm. It's so cool. It's so good. I also really love Smash Up, as I just said.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic game. It's one that I sort of went in on a whim. I was like, we need some more board games to play. And I saw this, and I was like, this looks cool. And I got it. I bought the original game, which had 8 factions. And since then, I bought all the expansions, which are 8 expansions.
That's a lot of expansions. I bought a lot of expansions for a lot of the games I own, though. So you realize I have 3 expansions to Pixel Tactics, and we've only played one of that games, and we've only played one time. Yeah, no.
I'm sorry about that. Well, the other thing on my list that I love playing is Crossmaster Arena.
Yeah.
I love tactics games, and that one's a very, very good one.
Oh, it's super good.
We've only played twice.
Yeah, it's like a MOBA, but for like miniatures.
It's so fun.
It's very neat.
It is so cool to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes a little bit of setup, and it's
it's good.
You gotta be committed to a hardcore 2-player
You mentioned tactics. I kind of want to try Super Dungeon is something or other. I don't know. It's kind of like very Japanese-esque in its style. It looks very chibi, but it's basically, as far as I can tell, like a bunch of players are playing a party of characters, and one player is playing the dungeon basically, and you're spawning in monsters and fighting them and stuff like that.
Told me about this
and so it looks neat.
Sounds fun.
I've played. When I was at PAX, I got a code card for the online version of it, or I guess I say online, but it's the Steam version of it where you can play on your computer. And I played a little bit of that. It's neat, but it's one of those things. It's like the more I played it on the computer, the more I was like, this would be so much more fun if I was sitting around the table with people playing this game. Like it just felt kind of meh just by myself playing these characters. So, but yeah, no, I that's a game I've seen a crap ton of expansions for at conventions, and I'd love to check that out and see if it's any worth my money.
I've seen. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Pixel Tactics.
Yeah.
They have a box, like the Big Geeky box. For
Smash. I
Up.
love when board games do Big Geeky box type things. I keep calling it that because Smash Up
That's
did
the
it,
only
but
one
I don't know
I'm sure
what
other games.
I don't know what other games call it, but basically like collection box of all the expansions. DC Deck Builder's coming out with one if they haven't already, and Sentinels should be coming out with one. I already donated to their Kickstarter. Like it feels like a year ago, but it's apparently still coming out sometime this year. We'll see.
Speaking of Kickstarters.
Kickstarters are great for board games.
They are good. A couple weeks ago on our podcast, we talked about Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I think this might be the first tangent we've been on in this show.
Whoa! We're doing really good. I actually really thoroughly enjoy our tangents.
Pretty decent. We talked about Power Rangers, and I asked you about the movie that we figured out was called The Order.
The Order, yeah.
I checked on that recently. It was funded.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be coming out next year, I think. On
Nice.
IMDb, it says The Order, and then in parentheses it says 2018. So I'm assuming that's what they're expecting.
Sometime next year, yeah.
Sometime next year, which is cool.
Yeah.
That means it says it's in development, so I guess that means
it looks
it's
rad.
happening.
It may not be that great, but
super excited.
I'm going to see it.
That the Shannara Chronicles Season 2 is about to drop in October, I think.
I should probably
which you
watch
probably
that
don't
show
care
at some
about.
point. I really
it's not
don't.
going to drop on Netflix.
But I'll probably check it out.
It's not going to drop on Netflix. It's moving from... It was...
It's not going to drop on MTV?
Well, the first season was on MTV, but it's moved to Spike.
Oh.
So it's going to be dropping on Spike.
Huh.
I need to see if they have some kind of streaming service or something like that. I'm going to watch it on that.
It's probably awful.
It's probably the worst. It's probably absolutely terrible.
It's probably worse than CW's.
Like everyone else's individual streaming app. I cannot believe that Young Justice is going to a DC streaming app.
Yep.
Isn't
that the best?
I'm just going to peel my face off and staple it back on.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Yeah. No, it's... So, like, on the topic of Pixel Tactics, just briefly,
board games.
on the topic of Pixel Tactics, there's so many board games that I have looked into that I was like, oh man, I would love to play this game, but I don't buy it for the sole purpose of I don't have enough nerdy friends that would play this game with me. That would
like
be able
the
to sit
Power
through
Rangers
it.
game.
Well, no, the Power Ranger trivia game. I thought about getting that one just because it'd be neat to have a Power Ranger trivia game.
The game that you could bring and just wreck anyone at.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, you want to play this game with me? Oh yeah, sure. What is it?
Let's play Trivial Pursuit for Power Rangers. But no,
it's David wins every time.
Yeah. So I thought
game?
about getting that one at first, but then when I actually looked at the reviews of it, you look at the Amazon reviews. Apparently, a lot of the questions are just answered incorrectly in the trivia game.
They got all their info off Wikipedia.
Whoever designed the trivia game just didn't know about Power Rangers, and so all the fans that were like bought the game were like, this is wrong. This question is wrong. Like, so I didn't get that game. But no, I'm talking about things like Civilization, the board game, or just like really, really convoluted board games like that.
That sounds detailed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I looked into some of it. You could you buy upgrades for your units and stuff. It's super cool, but it's very complicated. And I'm like, who would play this with me? Who?
Do you consider RPGs board games? Is D&D a board game?
Yeah. I mean, I would consider them tabletop games, which is more or less the same thing as board game.
Yeah.
The only difference between a tabletop game and a board game is that there's not necessarily a board to play on. But you're still using the mechanics of
but you're
board
still
games.
bored.
Oh!
No,
yeah,
okay. No, I actually really enjoy D&D and tabletop games.
Yeah, I think
what
so.
Your take on them was. I think it's like board games level 3. If what we've talked about thus far was level 1 and level 2, tabletop is definitely
tabletop's a
level
little more I say convoluted, a little more advanced.
I think it requires more out of the people playing it than any other game does.
Especially because the RPGs don't tend to have like necessarily components. Like there aren't necessarily there aren't pieces or cards to necessarily deal with. It's really like all in your collective imaginations, and so even the story itself of the game is brought to you by another player, but who's playing the game master basically. And so it definitely like invests a lot of your time and focus basically.
That is
I think my top 3 for board games would definitely be Sentinels of the Multiverse because I love that game so much. Probably Betrayal for the second one.
Yeah. Easy.
And either DC Deck Builder or Smash Up. Although I'm leaning towards Smash Up. But at the same time, Boss Monster. Boss Monster is really good.
Is so fun. Yeah,
I really thoroughly enjoy Boss Monster.
And that one's fun because it's real tricky.
Yeah,
and that's
another game.
That's when you have to play more than once.
Yeah,
really. Like
definitely.
If you're going to play with anyone, play it 3 times.
It helps that game isn't that long to play.
That's how we played with Eddie, and you hated me.
I probably, I don't know. I feel like that scenario happens a lot.
So Boss Monster, similar to King of Tokyo, is a game where you're playing for points, but you can also there's 2 ways to win. You can get to the points first, get to the number of points, the goal first, or you can be the last monster standing.
Yeah.
So in King of Tokyo, you can deal out damage. And
I remember the game you're referring to. It was a particular game where...
So in Boss Monster, you're playing to 10 souls. You're trying
to kill 10 adventurers.
Trying to lure 10 adventurers into your dungeon that you've built really, really well, so that it will kill all of them, and you'll take their souls. However, if any of them survive your dungeon, they give you a wound, and you can only take 5 wounds. Once you take your 5th wound, you die.
Yep.
And we were introducing this to a friend of ours, and it's David's turn, and I think you had managed to lure like 8, some ridiculous number of heroes to your dungeon, because there'd been a build up in the town, and they were just waiting for the right person with the right combination of rooms, and you ended up being that person, and you were about to get just like a ton of souls, and I was just like, well, screw that. I think I did 2 freezes. Like I froze like 2/5 of your dungeon, so Maybe. They all just walked through your dungeon and murdered you.
Yeah, no, I feel like we've had a game like that before, but I remember there was a particular game where it had come down to the situation that it was you were going to win, and Eddie was going to lose. But instead of just taking the loss, he made it so that, like, I was going to make it so that we almost tied or something, or maybe I was going to beat you or something like that. Yeah. But he made sure instead of just taking his L, he decided to bring me down and let you win the game. Yes. And that was really frustrating. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, thanks, Eddie. That's good.
But that's not the first time he's ever done something like that. We played Betrayal where we played werewolves,
yes.
And he became the werewolf just so he could kill other players and win the game as the werewolf. Still,
he likes being a werewolf.
It happens though.
I remember that, Eddie. That happened so quick, dude.
No, it was ridiculous.
He turned tail immediately.
And it was one of those situations where I was sitting there and I'm like, I should have seen this coming.
Yeah, we both were like, oh man, yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense.
I was kicking myself after that one. Yeah, but no.
See, good fun memories from playing board games, David.
I really enjoy that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Well, no, I
feel like that is a similar thing that. Like similar memories, I feel come board games like that as they are in RPGs. Like I've talked before about RPGs or D&D more specifically, but when someone plays D&D a lot or role playing games a lot in general, you start to gain these stories of like, oh man, you know. Because you're so invested in the characters, you're like, oh man, my character, I did this thing and it was amazing, and everybody like thought it was cool, and or like, oh my gosh, there was this time where it was really scary and we were all gonna die or whatever. And it's like we think of these memories almost as real memories, even though this was a fictional game we were playing. And I feel like a lot of that happens also in some of these board games I play, where I'm just like, oh man, this time where this one person did this thing, and I was like, oh no, how do I defeat you? Oh, like yeah, no, it's very. I think it's neat. I think it's a lot of fun, especially when you have some really good friends to playing with you. It's really neat. And I feel like board games in general have gotten really popular due to things like Tabletop on Geek and Sundry and series like that, where they kind of like, you know, put tabletop gaming on a platform basically, or on a pedestal where people can see it and get more exposed to it.
I think tabletop games and
there's kind of been a renaissance in the last few years where like a lot of really good new board games have been coming out.
I think a lot of things, tabletop and board games are one of the things that have benefited from having an online community.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was just more difficult for people to know about them or to be able to see if they wanted to buy this game or different things like that. People, and now because of Kickstarter, because of things like that, it's much easier for fans of board games to find good games and find games that they love. And it's much easier for creators of board games to find an audience now. And so the internet sort of has allowed this renaissance, really has.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good. I like that. And same thing is applicable to other things as well.
I also think it's neat because we talked a little bit before about it, how like when it comes to the internet, a lot of things have been, people tend to do things like torrent and get things for free. And board games is one of those things that's a tangible thing you have to purchase. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people like have it kind of gotten into the habit of paying for things they enjoy through things like board games, especially like with Kickstarter. I remember talking to somebody about Kickstarter when we talked about in relation to board games and how Kickstarter has basically become a newer way to basically pre-order board games. Like, because that's basically what I've done with Kickstarter a lot of times is when I donate to a game, I'm like, well, how much do I have to donate for me to get a copy of this game? Like, I don't ever want to just donate $1 to put my name on the credits or something goofy like that. Yeah. I want to play this game. You know what I mean? Like, so.
I would agree.
But yeah,
if you haven't played board games, if you want to get into it, contact your local nerd. Everybody knows some nerd. Set up a game night. It's a good time.
If you don't know any nerds, you know us.
You
and
do.
You can check out the games we mentioned.
Indeed.
Let us know what board games you guys like to play.
Do that.
Tell us in the comments or email us at Those Nerds You Know Pod.
Those Nerds You Know Pod at gmail.com.
Yep. Tweet us at Twitter, TMYK Pod. Those kinds of things.
Yep.
Cool.
Alrighty. So we want to get into it?
Yeah.
You or me?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Alrighty. I'm going to talk about a little anime called Coyote Ragtime Show.
That sounds goofy.
It sounds ridiculous, but I love it. So this anime is super duper cool. Came out here in America in 2006, I believe. Yeah, 2006 is what I see.
Oh, wow.
So I have a lot of older anime that I started back in high school that never finished, but I now own them. And so what I plan to do is, since I don't have anybody to watch them with, I'll just vent about them here on the podcast. Now that I own them and can finish them.
There's a few anime I own that I have not seen. That's so weird.
Most of the anime I
used to make fun of people that own anime they hadn't seen before, and now I'm one of those people.
You sure are, David. That's super accurate. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Not every week, but certainly I'm going to be doing more of it. So Coyote Ragtime Show is Treasure Planet meets Ocean's 11 meets like One Piece and meets Titan AE.
Oh wow!
It's super fun. It's super.
It's a bunch of different things.
I'm gonna read you some stuff. I'm gonna read you the back of this here DV Dizzle that I have. This Coyote Ragtime Show. Insurrection will not be tolerated. To prove the point, the government has set a big bad bomb to blast Graceland right out of the sky. Graceland is a planet. Okay. That's not on the back. That was parentheses me saying Graceland is a planet. To make matters worse, the king is dead. However, before Pirate King Bruce died, he hid billions, with a B, David, billions, in stolen loot on the doomed planet. Oh, look, they mentioned that it's a planet. Graceland's a planet. Now, the galaxy's most infamous criminal, a mystery man known only as Mr.
has
busted out of the slammer to get his hands on the booty before it's too late. The slammer.
I love it.
Stuck in a slammer, David.
This anime sounds great.
Along with King Bruce's daughter and his band of misfit coyotes, Mr. sidesteps government goons, dodges a hottie investigator who's on his trail, and fends off a dozen android Lolitas who are programmed to kill.
Lolitas.
If it's capable of destruction or distraction, it's fair game in Coyote Ragtime Show.
This show sounds ridiculous.
Also on the other side it says,
and I love it.
Bullets, blades, bombs, beauty, and boobs.
Yep.
The 5 Bs of life, I assume.
The 5 Bs.
Anyways, as funny as this all sounds...
Dodge.
Yes, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. As funny as this all sounds like, it makes it sound like super duper fun and a lot of action, and makes it also sound sort of like a fan servicey.
Mm-hmm.
There's like minimal fan service.
Really?
There's no.
That's surprising.
There's no shower scenes.
Oh wow.
There's no
obligatory.
There's no obligatory bikini
or
episode.
Hot bath. Oh,
nothing like that.
Yeah.
There literally is an army of chicks in Lolita costumes. That's the 12.
Yeah, they're dressed like maids or something.
Android. Well, I mean, yeah.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about the maid deck building.
Gosh, yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
So good. Go buy all of it.
Go buy all of it. Or don't.
Or don't. Yeah, you don't have to. So we got this pirate king, right?
Yeah.
Bruce,
Mm-hmm.
and he left everything that he accumulated, all his big bad. So he like. I'm going to spoil this, by the way.
He left everything he owns in one piece.
Yes. That's essentially what he did. Only, so he was a...
Cue the rap. No,
he was... Gosh, yes. Yo ho ho. So he was basically like a career criminal.
Mm-hmm.
They call him the king.
The king. Hail to the king, baby.
He had a... Oh, gosh. I need to get a... I'm going to pause real quick and get a list of characters.
Do it, bro.
I don't remember this guy's name. Bishop? No, Bishop is not the one who's a reverend, which is confusing. Bishop is the blonde-haired kid. Let me see.
Shepherd Book.
I like that they listed all of the Lolitas names because they're literally named after the months of the year. Just in case you didn't remember them.
Right, just in case you didn't remember.
Okay, Swamp Gourd, that's who this is. Okay, gotcha.
All of the months of the year.
Yep. Okay. Cool beans. All right.
That is like One Piece. Like there's a group in One Piece that are like they're all named after, they're all numbered and they're all like it's a guy and a girl. It's a group of people and it's always a guy and a girl and the guy is always represented by a number and the girl is always represented by either a season or something to do with a special day. Like like Thanksgiving or
Christmas 23,
like, right? Yeah, or something. Yeah, Mr. 3 and Miss October or something goofy like that. Or this
4th
of
of July 6 for the sake of inconsistency.
For the sake of inconsistency, yes.
Gotcha. All right,
those kinds of things.
That's cool. Any hoozles. Right. Bruce leaves this. He leaves. They call them space dollars, or space bucks. He leaves $1 billion space dollars in this safe.
It's not the worst currency I've heard before.
No, probably not. It's real interesting.
Trigon had double dollars.
So he also I watched the dub of this. I will probably go back and watch the sub, but I didn't want to have to think too hard because I usually watch this at night.
Yeah, no, this sounds like a lot of fun though.
It is a good deal of fun. Anyway, space guy, space pirate, career criminal. His biggest thing is he spends months going undercover basically at the most secure bank in the galaxy that handles currency from planets and everywhere and has the most secure vaults. This vault, and he figured out how to get into it, how to get into the vault and get the money out. The vault is basically set up like almost like a Rubik's Cube. It can spin and chambers in it can change, and it does that on a regular basis.
Oh, wow.
So in order to keep so only a few people know the correct combinations to always get into it. Yada. Anyway, he spends months undercover working for this bank, doing legitimate work at this bank so he can get close to the thing, learn how it operates. Gets himself into it, so he has to memorize the way it works, so that because gets into it, it spins, he gets through the chambers, gets to the inside, he sets off a bomb towards the inner core of it, because doing so alerts the security, and it starts a security protocol that removes all of the money in the vault, and sets it up to be removed from the vault via like a chopper.
Okay.
And so he does that, but he has his boys in, so the guys piloting the chopper, taking him and the billions of dollars away, are
awesome.
His boys.
That's
and
cool.
It's so cool.
That's very
right?
Ocean's 11, yeah.
It's
okay.
super cool.
Yeah.
Super sweet. He dies. I don't remember if it was explained exactly how he died. I don't remember if he was captured and executed or not. I don't actually remember that part. regardless, he's dead. He leaves, but he somewhat knew he was going to die, something at that point. He leaves a map with his daughter Franca in her little necklace.
Cool.
And he says, so Mr. was like his second mate, and his first mate was this guy named Swamp Gordon.
Swamp.
Swamp's fun. So he's like, Mister, be sure to take care of Franca, and you know what to do. Go get the money.
Yeah.
Do what you do. Take care of my girl.
For
Swamp,
sure.
or Mister has a crew. He's got Bishop and Katana. Right, those are their names. Yes, Katana. And I swear the other guy's name is Bishop, but I don't see it on here. Anyways,
I saw it earlier.
Bishop, gotcha. So Bishop and Katana. Katana's the pilot. Bishop's sort of I don't really know what Bishop really is. I guess maybe he's Mister's first mate. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the first episode is them busting out of Mister busting out of jail. We've also got Marciano, who I guess at some point was a cohort of New Bruce, and feels as though she's also entitled to these billions of space dollars.
Yeah.
But she isn't. She's a member of basically the mob. Like there's a very well-funded, well-organized guild of criminals.
Yeah.
And she's a part of it. But she's not even loyal to them. There's an episode where she just totally massacres another fleet of people.
Oh, wow. That's hardcore.
She is very hardcore, and so are all of her girls, her Lolitas. They're super fun. And then added to this, there is the Angelica Burns, and her assistant Chelsea. Oh, Angelica's like a federal level investigator for the galaxy, and has been charged with getting Mister back, like finding him and getting him back in cuffs and such and such and such and such.
Yeah.
Any hoozles. I'm going to talk about redeeming qualities of this anime and things that I don't think are great.
Okay.
On the back, it's like, it's funny. It's funny though to see how this thing was like described and like what the standards were at the time this came out in 2006, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The back of this DVD, it's like one of the quotes, like it pulls something from AnimeNewsNetwork.com, says an undiluted, let's redo that. It says an undiluted visceral treat. And I'm like,
okay.
I don't remember this being super visceral. Like the animation in it is definitely old anime animation. It's not super quick or smooth. So it's like, it's hard for me to see the visceral part of this. Like all the stills on the back look super duper cool, but like in motion, it's kind of clunky at times.
Kind of, meh.
Yeah. And the dub is just funny at times. Like it's one of those dubs that I think suffers from, well, their mouth is moving right now, so I guess we have to put something there, even though real people probably wouldn't have said anything more, or wouldn't have added to this conversation, or have said, or wouldn't have yelled out into the darkness. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I get that.
Whereas maybe they would have.
I mean, again, I feel like that's a cultural thing with.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is, and so that's an issue. Another thing is that, like, again, like it seems almost like it almost seems like it's marketed as being
this anime that's like pushing the envelope a little bit,
yeah,
trying to be risque,
full of fan service and things
yeah,
like that. But
yeah.
the worst thing in it is there's like some cussing. Like it's not even very gory. There's no real fan service in it, unless you consider 12 women dressed as Lolitas to be fan service, which I don't. I don't. So
depends on how modest the outfits are.
There's a lot of interesting. They're fairly modest. There's a lot of interesting things in it. So that being said, all that goofiness. So Swamp Gordon. Swamp Gordon is Bruce's first mate.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, why didn't Bruce leave this treasure in the hands of him? Well, essentially, I don't think it's really explained. I think it's just that Mister is really cool, I guess. Or maybe he trusted Mister. I don't know. So Swamp Gordon he's a black guy, and it's like the Japanese completely unashamed, stereotypical view of a black person.
Oh, jeez.
It's really funny because they don't hide their stereotypes, racist kind of things. Well at all.
Not really.
Because,
like, I mean, what is it? Is it G Gundam that?
Yeah, I think
or
that
is
one's...
it whichever one where they have the nationalities that represent each of the Gundams?
Yes, they do.
And that one's apparently super... A lot of people said that's super racist because it's just all the stereotypes. And we talked before about how Hetalia is like that. Where it's
one of the goofiest, funniest experiences I've ever had in anime comes from this show. And it's in episode 3, I think, when they go... So, episode 1, Homeboy breaks out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2, he comes back and gets his crew and Franca. And they... escape the clutches of the police again and head out.
Yeah.
And he's like, we got to get one more person on this team before we go do this thing, and that's Swamp Gordon. And they pick up Swamp and go to Swamp Gordon's planet. Another thing they do is they've got people that are hot on his tail.
Yeah.
And so they lead people to Gordon's planet because he knows that Gordon isn't a pushover and he'll protect himself. So if he brings a threat to Gordon, Gordon will neutralize the threat for him.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
that's part of this thing. Reason he's coming here. So when we're introduced to Gordon has become a reverend. So he was a criminal with Bruce, with King and all that. He's become a reverend, and you are introduced to this man in the middle of a sermon where he is leading and participating in a very loud and rambunctious and fun, like, Southern Baptist gospel song.
Nice.
Chorus singing. Best part is, I told you I watched this dubbed.
Yes.
It's not dubbed, it's all sub. So it's watching these people sing this gospel song in Japanese. It's the greatest thing.
They didn't dub the song?
No.
Why?
Like, of all the things you probably could have subbed and probably could have dubbed and done better, this might have been it in America. You know what I mean?
Oh my god!
But they just didn't. It's great.
That's awesome.
It is hilarious.
That's so good.
It is so funny. So you're watching this Southern Baptist gospel chorus all in Japanese.
Oh man.
It is so worth it. It is the goofiest thing I have ever seen. Oh my
gosh, maybe they left it in Japanese because it was goofier. Maybe? Like, because it would have been funnier that way.
I don't know.
That's so funny.
It's so funny, David.
That's awesome.
So funny and unabashedly stereotypical. Just so dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
He's got a real nice mustache.
Yep.
Big ol' afro. It's great. It's super fun. But there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of twists and turns in this. It gets fairly political towards the end with, because like essentially there's a planet that's sort of rebelling against the Federation, and the Federation is literally threatening to destroy the planet. Like,
oh my God.
That's what they've gone with. They're like, all right, look, you guys stop doing all this mess, or we're literally going to drop this bomb on your planet. In the meantime, Mr. is racing with his crew to Graceland to get the Space Bucks. Marciano is trying to kill Mr. and take the Space Bucks. She finds out they're going to Graceland, so she starts basically racing them to Graceland. She gets there first, shortly before them.
Yeah.
Also, Homegirl, Angelica, is trying to capture Mr., so she's after them. Another fun, interesting thing that happens in the first episode of the show, one of Marciano's 12 Lolita robots gets like just wrecked. There's nothing left of her but a head. And the investigator chick, Angelica, takes the head. That's May. Takes the head of May and just has the head with her the whole time, functional, just as like a hostage and like a source,
like a witness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's talking to
That's
May about
awesome.
all this. This is great. They develop a friendship. It's great. It's
That's awesome.
It's nice. It's a good time.
This show. This sounds like the most anime.
It's so anime, David. It's so anime. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This anime is nuts. Again, it has the animation problems that it would have had back then. Would be a fun anime to redo now with better animation, I think.
Sure, yeah.
And a better, maybe...
Did this have a manga? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. That's something I didn't figure out before doing this because I'm a moron. I did not I do not know if it was based off anything. It's a clean 12 episodes.
Yeah.
It's quick.
Does it have a good conclusion? 12 episodes wraps up the story. That's neat. That's awesome.
It's real cool. So
that's very cool.
The other thing he does, King, takes all this money, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't remember. He built a replica of the vault to practice in.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that's what he put the money in when he left it.
Huh.
So he got all the money out of the real vault, put it in this fake vault, buried it in Graceland.
Wow.
So not only do they have to get to Graceland, they have to get into the vault.
Yeah.
Which is another part of the thing that he left for Franca, is he left video, I think, some type of source or way for them to know.
To figure it out.
Yes, to figure it out.
Huh.
Just nuts.
That's interesting.
Crazy. And just essentially this is an anime where they give you this straightforward formula and they say, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Or this is how this stuff is on this planet, we need to get there, and we need to take the money.
Yeah.
Simple, easy. And then from then on it's just problem after problem getting there.
Yep.
Introduced. So originally they were planned to be there with 3 days left before, because the Federation has set a date that they're going to blow up Graceland.
Oh my gosh.
They're just we've had it with y'all, we're gonna blow y'all up, unless they can come to some agreement in the treaty.
Yeah.
They've got this big bomb floating over the planet. We're just gonna drop into their atmosphere and nuke this place.
Jeez.
The whole planet. It's nuts. It's ridiculous amount of genocide.
Yeah.
That I don't think is ever
addressed.
Justified.
Yeah, or talked.
Yeah. Well, no, it is addressed. Everything's
okay.
addressed. No one's real happy about it, but I mean,
yeah.
I can hear that real clear. Anyways, so the first major problem is they're all wanted criminals and they can't get to where they're going fast enough.
Yeah.
Or they have a run-in with Marciano, and it slows them down. So originally they're going to get there with 3 days left to spare. Now it looks like they're going to get there with half a day.
Oh wow.
Just a few 12 hours to be able to get everything done.
Huh.
So yeah, the first major thing is it's going to blow up. Then they can't get there on time. Then they get there and all of the Federation, all of Marciano's crew has already found the dig site, has already found the places where everything's going to be, and they're guarding it.
Yeah.
So they have to get around the guards. They also have to find. So when they get to the planet, they split up, and half a team. 2 of the guys are going to defuse the bomb up in the space station.
Yeah.
And then another team is going to find the vault, and another team is going to try and distract Marciano.
Huh.
And then all of that falls through too. So the people in the space station trying to disarm the bomb find out that the bomb is fake. It's just a big hollow fake rocket.
Oh my gosh.
And they find that out because someone accidentally flies a ship into the bomb, so they think they're gonna die.
Oh wow.
They think they're about to set off this bomb, and then it's just empty, and they're like, oh crap. And they're like, oh well, that's fine, no bomb, right? Good, it's just a big bluff, right? But then they sort of figure out through some deductive reasoning that the reason that that's hollow is because the bomb is already on the planet. It's buried in the planet, and it's going to go off regardless.
That's nuts.
They were just holding this thing over them so they would have something to see.
Yeah.
And they would consider it...
that'd be the bomb, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense because the space station wouldn't have really been able to clear the blast of this entire planet.
Yeah.
But if there's no bomb on the space station, they can just, hyper out, jet out.
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
flip the switch.
That's
and blow
nuts.
The whole thing. So they still have a problem. They have to get everything off of the planet, and get all the people off the planet before it blows up. They have to find the vault and such. They find the vault. They find out that's because of all of the digging and blasting to put the bomb where it was, and because of all the digging from other people and all the fighting on the planet, it's caused an underground sort of cavern and lake to burst. So the place where the vault is held is half full of water.
Oh, wow.
So the vault is half underwater at this point.
Yeah.
They've got to figure out a new thing. It's a bunch of interesting things. Just a bunch of twists and turns.
That's neat.
Is what this anime really is. A lot of shooting.
Yeah. No, just looking at the cover of this anime,
everyone
is carrying a gun.
Everybody's got a gun.
Everyone's got a gun. There's little children with guns.
The Lolitas. So like 3 of them. They're like some of the fall. They're some of the fall months, I think. Cause like
they look like really young girls. They're like really little girls.
It's like August, September, and October.
That's nuts.
I think. Little triplets. They've all got guns. They're all just straight up robots. Crazy. At the end, there's a fight between Marciano and Mister. I think they shoot for a little bit, but they go hand to hand eventually, and you learn that Marciano herself is also a robot. And the reason that she's created all of these other robots is because she wanted to have children. She wanted to feel like what it was like to be a real human and have a family, but she never could.
Yeah.
Because I guess she developed that sort of consciousness about herself, but realized she wasn't able to. I don't know, crazy.
Yeah.
Weird. It was a rather weird and abrupt revelation to have about her. I don't know. She felt kind of bad for the sake of being bad for a long time in the show, and then we just had this revelation, and I was like, this is weird. That was one of the things I was kind of like, this is strange. But I don't know. It is not without its issues. This anime is not without its issues, but I don't regret watching it. It was a good time.
Sure.
Like you said, it's very anime-ish. It's got a lot of anime type tropes and things in it. A lot of over the topness. But I would recommend it if you got a little while to spare. Maybe watch the sub. That sub might make more sense.
Maybe.
I should probably do that and get back to y'all and let you know how it is. But it's real cool. Again, I wouldn't mind seeing this again nowadays with better animation. That's my only main gripe with the show, is that older anime is sometimes hard to watch because of the animation.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And that's definitely the case here. But
we've got a lot of new techniques and new tools and stuff for animation that help out.
I love this story. I love the concept. Oh, also, Homegirl. Another thing that's everything just kind of comes to an abrupt head.
Yeah.
Like everything sort of makes sense in the way the characters, their motivations and everything, but it all happens really fast at the end.
Yeah.
So like the police girl Angelica, like we discover that the real reason like she's always been obsessed with capturing Mister and finding him and bringing him to justice, quote unquote, is because he's really just like kind of fell in love with the guy.
Interesting.
And a very like
interesting twist.
I don't know, good girl likes bad, extremely bad guy kind of way.
Yeah.
And they explain that. So the way they explain that, the first time she ever saw Mister was like he was surfing atop a tsunami, tidal wave, as a ploy to help him steal the world or the galaxy's like most rare or largest diamond. Like it was part of his getaway or whatever. And she was just like blown away by the absurdity, I think.
Yeah.
And also just all of his masculine glory. She was just like, oh.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. that sounds very anime.
It is incredibly anime. Now that I'm saying it out loud and like reviewing it in my mind, it's like, no. So at the time I was watching, I was like, this is absolutely absurd. But now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, this is exactly what anime does.
Yeah, makes
perfect sense.
Dragon Ball Z, but with thieves.
I apologize, anime. Yes, that's what it is. Just raising the stakes all the time.
Power creep.
But thieving. All the power creep. It's a fun, ridiculous show. If you're looking to watch a show that's not too serious and you don't want to take too seriously, it's good. The good guys win, even though technically they're the bad guys.
Yeah, the protagonists win.
Yeah, the protagonists win. They get all the billions of dollars.
Nice.
And it's super good. It's super fun.
That sounds awesome.
You sound awesome, David. What are you going to talk to us about, David?
Today, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who.
Who's that?
Who's that? It's a BBC show, sci-fi show. It's been around for over 50 years.
What's BBC?
The British Broadcasting Corporation.
What's sci-fi?
I'm sorry. You're a nerd! You idiot! No, I'm just kidding. I don't think I'm going to be able to say anything. So this is the thing. I really enjoy Doctor Who. And I know a lot of people that listen may also like Doctor Who. And nothing I'm going to say tonight is going to change your mind if you don't like Doctor Who. And nothing I say tonight is going to really convince anybody that hasn't. So anything I say is not going to really convince anybody that hasn't seen Doctor Who to check out Doctor Who. But that's kind of what I'm going to try. I kind of just want to talk about a little bit about the show itself and a little bit like how I got into it and what I like about it, what I don't like about it, those kinds of things. So for me, I got into Doctor Who in high school around the time the new Who, as they're calling it, started coming out, which is this new revamp of Doctor Who that came out in the early 2000s. Because, like I said, the show's been around since, like, it's been in like black and white. You know what I mean? Like, it started a long time ago. It's been over 50 years. It's been around, and it's had a lot of people playing the Doctor and companions and things like that. It's had a lot of cast of characters and actors that have come up and taken the mantle of these roles that the show portrays in this big time travel adventure between this alien who's called a Time Lord, who calls himself the Doctor, that just roams around time and space in its little like phone box thing that's bigger on the inside, and just does all these like ridiculous shenanigans around space and time. And it's just there's a lot of history to the show, and it was rather intimidating when I first heard about the show. But thankfully, when I got into it,
challenging, David.
Yeah,
intimidating.
No, intimidating because of how much there is to see, and so
that's not intimidating, but like that's how I feel about a lot of big anime right now. That's going on forever, and not. I don't feel intimidated by how long it is. I feel exhausted by how long it is. I'm just like, give me a 26 episode, fun little anime.
Yep.
Because I'm just not on board for an epic. I don't.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I wouldn't mind having like a show, like one.
Yeah.
I can watch for the rest of my life.
But
good God.
Yeah.
Just
there's a couple.
stop.
There's a couple out there, man.
So long.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, I wish they would take more anime and shows that don't seem to have an ending in sight, and take a lot of their time and energy into anime that do have an ending in sight but never got that ending in sight.
Oh gosh, that's so give me more Devil as a part-timer.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Give me more Log Horizon. Mamoru Tomono, stop writing that dang Westwind Brigade manga and just you're under house arrest. Write more light novels. Dang it. Like, come on. Anyway, that's my mini rant for Log Horizon.
Is it?
There may be more later. Not tonight. But no, Doctor Who. So
another time.
Another time, perhaps. So Doctor Who. I got into it with Chris Eccleston, who portrays the Ninth Doctor. And then later on got into the transition of when he became David Tennant, when David Tennant took up the mantle of Doctor as the 10th. And then later on, Matt Smith as the 11th, and Peter Capaldi as the 12th. This is the current Doctor. And we're excited to hear about this new Doctor coming out, who's a girl. I can't remember the name of the actress, something Whitaker? Something... I don't know.
Typical David.
I'm super excited to see her because I think she's going to do a great job. I know a lot of people are like, oh, women, it's going to be terrible. But I'm just like, every time the Doctor has changed, it's been different. It's been a different take on the Doctor. It's going to be fine. It's going to be interesting, and I'm going to watch the crap out of it.
I'm surprised it took this long.
Right?
Honestly.
It's exactly. Because it's been talked about how Time Lords, when they regenerate, could become anything.
Yeah.
Not just, a guy.
And possibly not just humanoid.
Yeah, probably not even just humanoid. Like sometimes, like there's talk that they could come back as like they look like some other alien species.
He could be a rock person.
Yeah.
He could be one of those goofy-looking aliens from Power Rangers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, he could have like soccer ball head or something goofy like that.
Yeah.
So
nope, I'll be a British guy.
Right. But yeah, just like the TARDIS translates all languages into British English.
Yeah.
Even the robots have British accents. It's so weird. But no. So no, I really like the show. I think it's so. I got into Christopher Eccleston's Doctor in the beginning of the New Who, and I carried on to Peter Capaldi. I haven't seen the most recent season, or at least not a lot of it. I've seen the first few episodes of the new recent season, but it's hard for me to keep up with it because I don't have cable. and I don't watch it on the BBC. I've watched a few episodes. The ones that I have seen on their streaming service, which
How's that?
is awful.
Yeah,
is the word I'll use to describe it. It's not great.
Are you telling me an independent streaming app is not good, David?
No, it's not.
How
It's no
dare
good. But
I don't understand.
I know, I don't understand either.
Just
Hire an engineer, dang it. I don't know what it is.
Or just let someone who's already good at streaming stream your stuff.
Exactly, that too. But no, it just, yeah. So, but no, I'm liking...
Put Young Justice on Netflix.
I'm liking Peter Capaldi's most recent season for what little I have seen of it. And, yeah. So, one of the things I like about the show is I love time travel stories. I love stories about...
Well, David, what if I told you there is an entire series about a doctor who travels through time every episode?
Not every episode, but yeah. Quite a few
Look,
episodes.
David, don't correct me about a show
I'm sorry, who's talking about Doctor Who? No, but no, it's solid. I really like it. And I like...
Correction, I've seen 2 episodes. 2.5.
That's true.
I watched someone watch an episode of Peter Capaldi, but I only watched like a smidge of it.
Cool.
Like I watched them finish it.
He's good.
You're good.
I have a few episodes I want to show you.
You're
with
a
him.
real good Doctor Who, David.
Yeah. Okay.
Possibly the best.
Possibly the best.
The best I know.
I don't have a good British accent. I couldn't portray Doctor Who.
I don't believe you. Give us your best British accent.
Oh Lord, no!
No.
Not gonna happen.
No.
Not tonight. Maybe some other night.
But in the future, we'll do a whole podcast in British accents.
In British accents.
Promise.
Yeah. Everybody, hold your breaths.
Right
we'll
now.
totally do that. But no, so it's not perfect.
Neither is Coyote Ragtime.
No,
Show,
not as not. No,
if entertainment
show
had to be
is.
perfect for us to like it.
Yeah, no, but so it's a little campy. But as we've discussed before, that doesn't bother me as much.
Doesn't deter you at all.
Some of the villains are guys in rubber suits, which is very much like Power Rangers, but it's a little more mature.
Like
I like a lot of the stories that are told on a personal level, like a lot of the characters, things like the episodes I showed you were ones where the characters either had some sort of personal connection with the Doctor, or they had some sort of personal connection with other characters in the show. And it was kind of, there's a human element to the show that I think is really interesting. A lot of the show is, running around and, shooting things up and, explosions and stuff like that and traveling through time, and a lot of, time travel hocus pocus that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just kind of neat in the moment. The show tends to rely on a lot of rule of cool, which I'm okay with. Because there's a lot of times in the show where I'm just like, oh man, that looked amazing. But then when you think about it after that, you're like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Not even a little bit.
No.
You broke every rule in
Most
the book.
effective things don't look cool.
But it's interesting. I feel like sometimes the show feels very consistent, and it feels very like they did their research and and I understand it's got to be tough writing this show because again they have 50 years of time travel to talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they're gonna have some problems or inconsistencies, but sometimes it's just blatant. Sometimes it's like, did you even watch this show? Do you even know the rules? Do you even understand why you do this? But generally I tend to enjoy it. I tend to enjoy the thrill of it. There's tons of situations where the Doctor is running away for his life with whatever companion he's with at the time because some enemy is ticked off or some enemy is trying to destroy the world, and he's decided it's his mission to stop them. And he's very clever. He's very witty, and I think that's brilliant in a hero. I think he's generally really good at taking charge of the situation and getting people to listen to what he has to say because he's the most intelligent or clever person in the room generally.
He is the Doctor,
and it's very neat because of that. And I think it's neat to see a hero do heroic things like that. He doesn't have special feats of strength. You know what I mean? He's just real. His greatest superpower in the show is that he's really smart. He knows a lot about the universe and how it works.
What's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it that more interesting when he runs into something he doesn't understand or doesn't know, because generally it's neat for the audience, but it's really neat for the Doctor himself. He's fascinated when he finds something he doesn't understand or doesn't know about, because that's his whole purpose, is to just travel time and space and just learn things and see things and understand things. And it's just interesting to see this glee about him. That's very cool. Yes. Question.
Doctor Who is not human.
No, he is a Time Lord.
Correct.
He has 2 hearts. He regenerates after he dies.
This is something I just thought about. So, but there are other aliens in this show.
Yes, plenty of other aliens. Santarans, the Silence, all kinds of different things.
Are humans from Earth aware of these other aliens in this show?
It depends on the planet and time they're on.
Okay.
Generally, when they're in the modern day
yes, that makes
England,
sense.
which is where he normally gets most of his companions in the current show. In the original show, he would get them from all over the place. He ended up having like a Highlander, and he had a future engineer. He had somebody from the distant past. He had all these different characters from all over time and space, along with him for a while. But in the current show, it's generally somebody from our day and time, and a lot of the events of the early seasons, like Christopher Eccleston and things like that, aliens do some kind of world threat, and the Doctor gets rather popular because he saves the world, and so humans do quickly learn of the existence of aliens. Like it becomes like, by the current show, whenever he comes back to the modern day, people are rather aware that they're not alone in the universe, but it's still not necessarily something that they necessarily talk about on a daily basis. I don't know. It's a little bit like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in that aliens attacked, and they were like, that was a thing that happened, but they've kind of moved past that. I don't know, because some unknown force is out there stopping them. I mean, there's been a few times in the show, more so in the earlier show, but a few times in the newer show, where the Doctor works for the British government, working under a program called UNIT, which is basically like Marvel's Shield. Basically, it's it's a organization designed to protect Earth from alien threat, basically. So yeah, it just depends. Most of the characters that are connected to the Doctor in any way know that he is alien, and know that aliens are not too far away from him whenever he shows up. They understand that whenever he's there, something dangerous is going to happen at some point. It's almost as if the characters understand the writing of the show. It's very self-aware of itself a lot of times.
I have this question that I'm trying to formulate in my mind. They often do movie events, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Are those usually with a movie budget? Are they hyped up a bit?
Good question. I don't know. They're definitely marketed. Like, they'll definitely have like ads and things and promos and stuff on the BBC and on certain channels and things to try and get people to come to it. But I'm not certain. The few television movie type things I've seen for Doctor Who in the newer Who stuff have been rather I don't know, like similar budget, if not better budget. But yeah, there's an episode, there's this big special they did called The Day of the Doctor, where Matt Smith and David Tennant versions of the Doctor had to team up with another version of the Doctor to fight some great threat that one of them just couldn't handle on his own.
What sort of like weird paradoxical explanation do they give for allowing more than one iteration of the Doctor to exist in the same place?
Generally, what they do to kind of write it is that the Doctor doesn't. It generally doesn't happen that the Doctor kind of enters his own time stream. Like, it'll usually be some form of accident, or it'll be out of some form of necessity. Like, he's like, well, I can't handle this on my own. I have to pull a different version of myself. Or he'll end up being like, the threat is in his timeline. Some creature or alien or some threat entered his timeline, and so he has to enter his own timeline to fight it, basically. And generally what happens is, the paradox of it is that time and space doesn't unravel like they talk about in like Back to the Future or anything like that. But what generally happens is, when the day is saved, as it were, only the most recent Doctor, the current timeline's Doctor, actually retains any memory of the event. and even to him, most of that memory is lost as well. So like he doesn't necessarily reference the times he's met himself. Like he doesn't, and it makes it so that previous versions of himself don't remember ever running into future versions of themselves. So they're just kind of written out that way in the sense that like, oh, we're going to do this big thing, and then when it's all over, it will act like it didn't happen, and that's just how they do it. Which is like lazy writing, I think, but rather effective. Honestly,
it's tidy.
It's really tidy. Yeah, it's very tidy, and I think that's really neat. The show tends to be pretty tidy in that sense, and then like a lot of sense. There's a lot of times in the show where they'll have some kind of long convoluted thing, but the conclusion of this convoluted thing will be that we get back to the status quo. You know what I mean? Like it'll just be like, oh man, this thing that's like. There's several times in the show where I'm just like, oh my gosh, how is this show going to progress now that this new wrench has been thrown into it? And then a few episodes later, some big dramatic, paradoxical, mind-boggling thing will happen, and then we're back to the Doctor is with a companion traveling through time and space, and everybody's safe. Yep. And so cool. It's really interesting, and a lot for me, a lot of the pull of the show is the Doctor's performances, but also a lot of the companions that he runs with, and a lot of their interactions, and how they push him or pull him towards the kinds of threats that they face, and how they overcome them. I think a lot of the companions that the show has put on has been rather interesting and kind of dynamic. Each of them bringing something a little bit different to the table, and kind of throwing the Doctor for a loop a little bit, and that's kind of neat. The threats are always high. There's always like some great threat that's going to affect a galaxy or affect a person, or sometimes the episodes are about just a person, like someone's in danger and the Doctor doesn't want anybody to die, and so he's always trying to save somebody, and it's very neat. And he gets put in some interesting predicaments. A lot of times, the show has him struggling with a lot of like interesting questions that are rather relatable, like what people like. We watched an episode where they were stuck on a transport basically, while someone must have been possessed by some kind of alien, and it basically kind of questioned the human nature of like how humans react to things we fear. Basically, how do we handle things we don't understand? How do we handle things that and how should we handle things like that? Like what should we do? And sometimes, especially in episodes like that I feel are really well written. This is Midnight. That's the episode I'm talking about. But sometimes they have questions like that where there's not a clear answer. By the end of it, there's just like the Doctor is not infallible. You know what I mean? Like by the end of the show, and that's something that he struggles with, because he feels, and it's a little bit like Superman and certain characters like that, where it's like they have this great power and great responsibility, and so they feel that they're better equipped to handle the situation, and generally they are, but a lot of times the Doctor fails, and he takes it rather hard, but at the same time he has to learn to grow, and he has to learn to progress and do better, and he does, and it's very neat. I think that growth is very interesting, and I think it's also very telling of some of the things that the characters do even in the different generations. Because when he regenerates, whenever the Doctor dies and regenerates into a new Doctor, he still retains the memories of his old lives, and it's neat to how they do. For me, it's fun how they do a lot of callbacks to the old villains and old characters and things like that. But it's also neat to see how the Doctor handles these new struggles he's portraying after he's handled similar troubles in the past, or how what's really interesting is the show has a lot of good starting off points, because whenever he introduces a new companion, generally the companion is new to the Doctor. They've never met the Doctor before. And so he kind of has to help them understand how this is going to go, how the show is going to go. And so it's very interesting that with a long-running show like this, it fits a little bit like comics, or even maybe like soap operas, where it's like it's designed in such a way that anybody can kind of start at a specific at any point in the show. Not necessarily any point, but like there's certain easy starting points for the show where people can start here and they can pick up the show and not necessarily have to know every single detail about Doctor Who to enjoy what they're watching. Generally, I feel those times are when the Doctors regenerate. Like when Christopher Eccleston first shows up, he didn't regenerate, like he regenerated off camera somewhere. So he just shows up being the Doctor when he shows up in the show. and we're told the story's kind of told from Rose's perspective, his first companion, and so it's like her world is kind of turned upside down when she runs into the Doctor. But then when he becomes David Tennant, David Tennant's character basically the Doctor had to convince Rose he was still the same Doctor, and so he kind of had to basically re-show her that I'm still the person you've been hanging out with for this whole first season, basically, and it's very neat.
Totally different.
Yeah, and then when they did Matt Smith, so I had a problem with Matt Smith when I first started watching that part of the show because they changed so much of the show. Like they just changed everything. Like the Doctor got a new TARDIS, he got a new screwdriver, he got a new body, he got a new companion. But when David Tennant was dying, he had a few episodes where he was able to set his affairs in order, basically, because I feel like he felt like either this was his last regeneration or he wasn't going to see these people again, and basically he found a way to kind of not sever all ties necessarily, but have a decent conclusion with each of his companions and friends he'd met along the way, where he was just kind of good luck with your lives, basically. I have to move on, basically. And then when he became Matt Smith, he never made contact with any of those previous companions or characters, and that bothered me as a viewer for a while, because the Doctor had nothing to prove. Matt Smith had nothing to prove to be the Doctor in Doctor Who, but I still felt he needed to prove it to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it took me almost a whole season for me to really appreciate Matt Smith's Doctor, but he is good. He does a good job. And I know several people who first started watching Doctor Who from Matt Smith's seasons, and that's perfectly fine. Because, again, like I said, because it's such a hard start of the show, because it's completely fresh and new. And honestly, I mentioned, someone I was talking to recently talked about how the show looks better in Matt Smith and Chris Eccleston, because Peter Capaldi, because they've gotten better effects, they've gotten better camera equipment, they've gotten better budget. The show's gotten more popular, all these different things, and so the show definitely looks better now than it ever did before. And so it's better to get into Doctor Who now than ever, and especially now with this new regeneration. I think I'm hoping it'll be a neat starting point for anybody that's at all interested in Doctor Who. They can pick up on this regeneration, and if they are interested and they do like this show, they could always go back and see the previous regenerations. Before Christopher Eccleston, the Eighth Doctor had a movie. It was just a movie that they were talking about they were going to do, but it was after the show was off the air for a long time. After the Seventh Doctor, they were going to make a movie with the Eighth Doctor, and he was going to transition to a show. And after the movie aired, I don't know if it did very well. I think it did okay, but it didn't do well enough for them to make a show, basically. Yeah. And so it was still a few years later down the line that they actually ended up making the new Who. And at that point, I don't know if they were able to get the same actor or anything like that, and so they basically just regenerated him into the Ninth Doctor. And so the Eighth Doctor only has that movie. He's only one. That's only. And so
have you seen that film?
I still haven't. Yeah, I still haven't. But as far as I can tell, anyone who's not seen any of Doctor Who can watch that film and still get Doctor Who, in a sense. Like the character is still.
Do that.
Yeah, we should do that at some point. Check it out. I think it'd be rather neat. And so each Doctor has their own take on the character, and I think that's very neat. And so I'm super excited for the future of Doctor Who. I'm excited for this current season of Doctor Who. I'm excited for anybody that's listening that might just be interested. Y'all should check it out. Tell me what your favorite Doctor is. My favorite Doctor is David Tennant, obviously. But
and he hates Matt Smith.
I don't hate Matt Smith. He's just my least favorite right now.
Yep. Tell him he's wrong, guys.
Tell me I'm wrong. Fight me. Don't at me, bro. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think it's great, and I like it a lot. And so
excellent. I can vouch for it. It's good. I've seen a couple episodes, and I enjoyed them.
Yeah,
they were fine.
I hope to show a few more episodes to you.
Excellent.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's good. That's the show for today. We are Those Nerds You Know. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at TNYKPod. You can also email us straight at thosenerdsyouknowpod@gmail.com.
We have a YouTube.
Those Nerds You Know. And, give us a like, listen to us, tell a friend.
Share us, tell us a friend. We're on iTunes if you don't already know that. Check us out. We're all over the place now.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can to get out there.
Yeah. Tell your friends. talk to us, man. Tell us what you think. So like questions before, tell us your favorite Doctor. Tell us your favorite board games if you have one.
Tell us what you like to play.
Yeah.
Or if you play one of these that we mentioned, and report to us. Let us know how you liked it. If you hated it, if you loved it, let us know what your experience was with it. Watch Coyote Ragtime Show, maybe.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but
tell us a ridiculous show you guys like that was a really great.
Yeah, do that.
A tight 26 episode anime. We might check it out.
Show that's you shouldn't like, but you do anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, or any anime that you watched from 2006. Anyways, I'm Ethan.
I'm David.
And we are those nerds, you know.
Yes, we are.
Bye.
Bye.